It's the evening and I'm taking an opportunity to come check my trail markers for an area that we're gonna thin out. Now, you can see these green markers. That's the perimeter of an area that we're gonna get a forest mulcher back out here, and you can see the beautiful work the forest mulcher did here. The forest mulcher is gonna clear this area. In this video, I wanna share with you why we're doing it this way and why we're hitting multiple stages. First off, I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. These green markers are the perimeter of an area that we're going to not clear because we're not ready to build a house, but we're gonna have a forest mulcher come in and clear more paths like this. Now, why are we choosing that method versus clearing the land? First off, general contractors have a year to 2 years backlog right now. Now, I'm not building a fancy mansion house. I'm not building a 500 square foot house. I'm building a simple home that is energy efficient and that can be built on over time if I so desire to expand my space. But I'm also have a goal of actually having more outdoor recreational space. So that's why first we started with the forest mulcher. And you can see here, the forest mulcher has made these trails. The leaves fall on it. It looks like it's natural. It's great hiking trails. And you can see behind me, the trails go off in that way as well. Now we're allowing light, more light into the woods, which is gonna start that underbrush coming up. But ultimately I wanna clear the majority of this land with goats. But I have a 3-acre segment that is the proposed home site. Now it's 3 acres. I don't wanna clear the whole 3 acres because we're not ready to build, but I do need to make sure there's enough access for the well company, should we get a well in there, and where the septic will perk. Because again, this is raw land. So if you're out there buying raw land, you may want to timber it. I don't know, but this particular woods, the trees are too small. Okay, there's not enough density of quality wood to be worth timbering. Now I know you can get pulp and stuff like that, but cleared land is exposed soil and has environmental factors such as erosion. It can have a loss of biomass. And again, that's why we're going back to forest mulching. So this 3-acre area is segmented off in 2 sections that are 1.5 acres, because you have to make sure your budget can allow for the guy to get out here and do his work. The rule that we have is do not cut down anything that is 4 inches or greater, and anything that will cause you to have to stop or slow down your activities while you're forest mulching. This is very important. You want that forest mulcher moving. You want that thing moving. You want that thing cutting down trees. And if he's stopping for something like this, well, got a little stumps on the ground. If he's stopping for something like this, then he's not clearing ground. Now, when we cut these trails, that causes the trails to wiggle a little bit back and forth, but that's fine. The trails will cut on contour the majority of the time. Now, the woods behind here, you can see this back here, is so thin that he can just drive through, but there are no green markers out here. So one of the most important things to do is to clearly mark your cuts. So we have an original trail. He can come in here. Now I don't want him riding over this trail and cutting it again. Okay, we don't need that. I want him to be able to know that he's cutting this side of the trail, and then when he rolls in, he can start edging out that trail all the way around till he finds the markers. This gives him a good idea of the perimeter he's cutting. I got 4 weeks for this guy to come out, so you know I got everything set up. But here's the thing. He'll go through on the perimeter of the property and through that center section, and then has priority to clear the front half. The front half is the ideal home site. The back half is the alternate home site. Now, why do I have 2 home sites? First off, what if the raw land doesn't perk? Think about that, folks. What if your land doesn't perk? What if you get out there and it's a beautiful home site? We've chosen a site not at the highest elevation, but just slightly below the highest elevation because there's probably going to be some dirt moved around in here. But ultimately, what if you can't get a septic in there? What if you won't perk for water? Well, because these routes, the well guy needs a 25-foot wide, so the 25-foot wide segment. To get a truck in here, pickup truck, you only need a 13-foot wide segment. To hike, you only need 8-foot wide. So listen carefully. By giving my forest mulcher a nice clean perimeter, you can see green means go. That way, he can start shaving this out, and he's going to leave behind 4-inch to 6-inch trees and better, which I can then come down with a chainsaw and cut those out for my purposes. We're going to do some pole buildings. Let me show you real quick up here. We're walking into this area, and you can see a little bit what I'm talking about. Right behind me, there's going to be an oak right there. That forest mulcher will take down that tree. But I'm not looking for clearing. What I'm looking for is to thin it out so that I can get in here. We can do some camping. We can do some projects out here. But trees like this, we can make very simple pole buildings with. So why cut it down? It's already here. It takes years to grow a tree like this. Now this thin brush and these briars and stuff like that, man, he can cut that stuff down all day. Look up here what we got. We've got just thick woods, okay, this stuff. Now I don't have enough deer to eat all that stuff out, and I don't have enough goats to eat all that stuff out. So why not, again, get the forest mulcher to come through and just thin out the area. Now what's interesting is that our first phase, and of course I did this on purpose, but I'm trying to teach you, the first phase was about getting the trails in. And where do you think those trails go? See, a lot of folks would be like, just cut some trails in them woods. I won't get my four-wheeler out. Well, you might get your four-wheeler out, and you might love and enjoy the trails, but the trails are cut on contour and to section off the property into paddocks, okay? If I'm running goats, I want to know that the trail I'm on right now, see this trail I'm on? Actually, there's another trail through the woods over there on the other side. So all I got to do is hack and slash. Well, I won't have to hack and slash anything because he's gonna thin this out. But I could hack and slash through the woods to put a temporary fence and then have the goats on one section at a time and just run the goats through on paddock. Now you'll see we got a little slope up here, uphill, and then I've got a woods that we're not going to touch. Now, could I thin those woods out and get it nice and get the nice view? Sure, I could, but I have to spend money to do it. So what you want is high utility value. The trails give me high utility value and access. I can move across this property at 2 and 3 miles an hour. I can paint and mark my sections, and then I can show him where to cut in. Now, just because I want him to cut in here and clean these out doesn't mean he can. See, this is an important thing to understand. There are going to be ditches and ravines and stuff like that. Let me get up here and show you. So when I talked about cutting across, I know this ravine here goes all the way across into the next path, so I could cut a fence in here and put animals on it. But it doesn't mean he can get his forest mulcher in here. So I give him plenty of space to move around. I give him plenty of options in case he gets to an area he can't cut. And I'm not going to be upset if either side of this ravine, there's like a 24-foot wide strip here, because then I can go in by hand and clean that stuff out. It's not a big deal. What I want, though, is as much of the area like this as possible. I can deal with the individual trees. The thick areas on the other side is going to give me a wind barrier. And when we camp in here, we can find the right spots to camp. And I don't know if you can see that kind of drops in. I'm going to look this way, and you watch my fingers, because this back and forth, it's kind of rough. It goes like this and has a ditch in there. So again, he might not cut through there. It may not be necessary. Now, another thing he's going to do is he's going to knock down the dead ones. Now, these trees are really nice right here. But in this one over here, it's got the top dead in it. So he might knock down the dead ones. But again, I don't want him stopping. I want that guy mowing the forest rather than spending a lot of time with individual plants and trees. Because again, the terrain is awkward in some areas. And he'll get in here and he'll do a great job. But ultimately, oh, this is seeing some green. Anyway, I get distracted by all the plants out here. I'm constantly exploring this space. But do you have the concept? First off, you're going to get the trails in there, okay? Even if you can afford to clear the whole property, if you're not planning on building, then you're going to get the trees thinned out for trails so that you can start enjoying the property. You can get out here and hunt. You can get out here and know that what I'm looking at right here, look at that. What I'm looking at right here has a trail on the other side. I can nail something right here. I could get a shot on something. I'm not a very good hunter, but you know, when I get there, I could get something there, and then I could pull it down to the other side. I could pull it up to this side, and the trails are wide enough to get a side-by-side in here. Can almost get a pickup truck in here, but there's these ditches. These ditches are bitches for the pickup. So, okay, so again, we put our original trails in paddock formation so that they are perimeters to different areas that can do different things. It could be a particular hunting paddock so that when you're on the radio, you can say, hey, I'm located at the back of paddock A. and that way other hunters know where you are if you're out here team hunting or doing a weekend thing. The paddocks give you information about this paddock is going to be, for example, so this is a home site paddock right here. It's going to be up close to the house. We have several home site locations on there. We're not sure which one's going to be perfect. And by the way, I'm not looking for views. I'm looking for results. I'm looking for a homestead that's going to be self-sustaining. This site has good solar aspect, but I need the depth, which turns out to be 3 acres. I need the depth because the terrain is going to block the sun. So there's some charts you can work on to see how that works. I'm going to make sure I have access. So once these trails are widened, I will be able to come in from the front side. So I'm coming in on the back here, and you see all these hills, but what we're looking at behind me, which is the center line of the homestead space, is actually on the ridge line. So the acre is rectangular, and that center mark cuts across the ridge line, which allows us to make kind of a cross formation. So may great blessings be upon this property, but ultimately up the ridge, I can drive the truck and I can get into the property up here. All this stuff on the side here, again, we're not touching it. We're not trying to drive around the entire property with a pickup truck or a well truck. We're just trying to get access to the homestead location so that we can then start plotting out where we want the property. But again, that could be years, because a lot of the builders have a 1 to 2 year backlog. What I get to do with it in the short term, because we're using the forest mulcher, and I want to come back around to that, is you see this beautiful ground here? Oh, it just looks like forest floor. I sometimes feel like Forrest Gump. But ultimately, this type of terrain and this type of mulching of the biomass gives me beautiful workspace. It gives me beautiful areas that I can just, literally, folks, you see this reclining area at my back. Oh, sweet Jesus, my back's hurting. I'm just going to lay on down right here and relax. I'm just going to lay down and relax in the woods. But can you see that? Can you see how nice this material is? Okay, this material is biodegradable. It's protecting the soil in the forest. It's giving me a soft ground to work with so that I can get out here and hunt. We can bushcraft. We can do all kinds of things. See, what good is it going to these bushcrafting classes if you never get to use it? So take the property you've got and you start, again, access trails formed around paddocks and points of interest. Some of the access trails just kind of cut the edge of these giant rock piles, outlining the previous pasture that was here on this property years ago. Next, you're going to look at your homestead location, and you're going to think about what are we going to do with it. Now, this was a mature forested, we could select cut some of this stuff. But again, it's not mature. It was cut 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and it really is not, that hasn't grown back well. So my course of action is to take a paddocked area and then take that paddock and clear it out a little bit, keep the big trees, keep the trees we can use for timber framing or small shelters, and basically make a campsite. That's what it is. I'm going to make a campsite. Now, will I be able to pull a trailer in and turn around in the campsite? Yeah, I could probably turn around because of the width of it. But be thinking about these things. I'm probably going to camp in primitive tents, maybe wall tents. I would like to have a pavilion for cooking. I could get a pre-built pavilion like a car shelter. I could get a pole building built out of the materials on the site. Do you see how that works? So now I come back in with the forest mulcher guy. I might have to wait a year or 2 years to build a house, but the forest mulcher guy will be out here in 4 weeks. And that means I start getting more use from the property. Prosperity Homestead is about you getting maximum use of the property while working with nature, okay? You know, God's provided all these things around us. Nature has built up an ecosystem. Why should we rip it out and just leave it naked? It's like raping the land, okay? Now, there are times where you want to clear cut. Don't get me wrong. But again, you're going to follow that clear cut with your home site, and that may not be something you can do right now in this economy. Listen, there are classes where you can learn how to do this kind of thing, but if you can't apply them on your own property in an incremental way, if you're wishing and dreaming and hoping you'll get it all done at one time, then it's not likely ever to get done. And I'm sorry to say that for a lot of folks, you'll be dreaming about the property, and then investors like myself and others will come in and buy the land and improve it and make it worth a lot more money than it is. But from a hunting perspective, I already have hunting value. My son and I get out here and we shoot we got a gun range. We can hike these trails, and we've hiked them several times. We use the GPS to know how long the trails are, and then we're gonna start naming some trails depending on how we set it up here. But this thinning in the woods is gonna give us areas that are probably 12 to 24 foot, just large patches. 32, there's one section in there where I'm gonna have a road access 24 feet wide at a minimum, and it's going to go from one end to the other, like I said, like a giant cross formation. What's powerful about this that a lot of people don't understand, and I know you guys like watching the YouTubes and stuff like that, but what's powerful about this is doable, okay? You can call the local forest mulcher guy, and if you have better trees, it's a whole different story, by the way. You know, there's pieces of land, and in fact, I'll go visit some land and show you what we're talking about when it comes to tree density and then size of tree. There are times where you're going to get paid $1,500, $2,000 an acre for them to cut the trees. Now, by the way, that you want to be looking at net. So I don't really like to talk about prices because, you know, there's gross price and net price. So for example, here, if I'm charging $75 per season and I'm putting out 4 hunting passes, or a party of 4 hunting passes at $150 to $350 per season, I'm pulling in $600 some dollars. If I've got 100 acres, you know, you figure out the math. But ultimately, you can start cash flowing these properties starting where they are before you get to where your house is. And in fact, the land pays for the house without destroying it. Okay. Now, I'm not against forestry, because a good forester is going to leave you with logging trails. A good forester is going to leave you with no erosion problems. And a good forester is going to do things like chip out now they can get money today. They can get money for chips. You know, they can shred it, put it in a truck, and go get money for it. But again, a good forester is not going to leave you with a bunch of crap. Now, what's great about the forest mulchers is that he can come in here like he's mowing the lawn for the property like myself, like with this one I'm on right now. So there aren't a lot of big trees that are worth timbering. So he can get in here and get you access at day one. Down in the description, I'll have links to other videos where you can see how these trails are they're just magical. And you can hike and camp and, you know, just start enjoying your property right away. But the next step is start figure out where your home site is. It might be thinning out areas for animals. It might be thinning out areas for other things. But if the economy crashes, we're in World War III, you know, I could drop a trailer here. If I needed to do long-term camping for some reason, or I wanted to just spend a week camping out here, I can do it because I have cleared spaces. Now, is there a point where the first approach gives you enough utility that you can go for years without doing the second? Yes. Where I am right now, if all I was going to do is hunt on this land and nobody was ever going to live on it, if all I was going to do is recreate on this land and camp and hike and have the nature experience, then I don't have to do anything else. Okay, this is what's important about the way I'm teaching you this. It's an incremental approach to land management that's based on permaculture principles, and it builds for you a kind of an oasis. You know, this was garbage land. I've hauled out probably 2 truckloads of garbage. This land is not suited for, I'm going to put goats on it. It's suited for goats and small animals, but it's not suited to go back into cattle. It would cost somebody more than the cows are worth. Maybe if there's a war that comes on, maybe if the economy gets worse, but ultimately there will be a point where you can start using that property. If plans change, you can start using that property. If you need a place to just go and just decompress on the weekends, maybe you're out of town owner, and you just haven't got any use out of the land. Well, this is how you do it. Now, I'm available for consulting. And a lot of the consulting I can do for you, like finding historical roads, I can do with satellites. Basically, I can use LiDAR systems to find the compacted roads. One of the reasons I picked this home site, by the way, is because the LiDAR showed me that it was pretty compacted. There's rocks underneath a lot of that stuff. And so for a home, you need, I'm shaking a can, blah, blah, blah. For a home, you need an area that can take the compaction so that you can get a good home. Plus, maps will give you elevations. You'll visit www.prosperityhomestead.org and you'll just simply ask your questions. I don't really have anything else to cover in this particular video. I'm literally, you know, I'm going to just chill out here for a little bit because it's starting to get evening. It's cooling off. It's pretty nice. And I'm just going to think a little bit about how things are coming along here. And I feel so blessed about how fast things are coming along. But I have to add in here a little bit that it's by design. So I want to encourage, if I can leave you with anything after this video, it is that I want to encourage you that even things going slowly, if you have the right design, and we do design plans as well, you can move, you can basically make every move you towards the goal that you want. So by design, you're going to move towards a target. So again, I'm going to meditate a little bit here and chill out in the woods here and just kind of, you know, just kind of relax because we're there already, and your property can be there already as well. It doesn't matter what condition your property is in right now. It doesn't matter what you want to do with it. There is some incremental step that's going to move you closer to that goal, and it's going to reveal to you. I got to do a little wink. It's going to reveal to you what you really can achieve with that property, because sometimes our dreams are not as they're profound in the experience that it gives us and the desire to move forward. But if you dream all your life to be a farmer, if you dream all your life to have a homestead, when you finally achieve it, it may not be what you expected. But what if you can start enjoying that right now? What if today the steps that you took moved you towards that vision you had, that you can experience it before retirement? I'm just saying, the opportunity is there. If you have any questions about this or anything else I've covered, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Visit me at www.prosperityhomestead.org, where we help homeowners get the maximum value out of their property using holistic land management and regenerative agricultural systems that basically you and the land are going to live together forever. Thanks for watching.